This is at Fasces, or at Fascia. Take a look at this. It is a pillar, multiple pillars tied together with a stick in the center. Depicted in art as representation of fascism, many being tied together, making one. And it usually has an axe sticking out of the side of it, to the left or the right. I'm suggesting that this is more than just a symbol and that it is an electrical device. This is a battery. Here it's depicted with the laurel of Daphne, which is a representation of Apollo or the sun, representation of sun energy. Here it is being held by a giant man. Tell by the pillars behind him, the size of this thing is immense. Here's Abraham Lincoln sitting with two fasces on either side of him. It's a stone relief, a large and a small axe size, with the laurels of Daphne seen at the Olympics. Here's another giant here. It looks like he has the skin of a griffin placed over his head, holding a fasces with what we would suggest is an axe head sticking out of the end of it. Seems like this was a very important device back then. And I'm suggesting that this is a battery. This is something that is basically a cathode and anode that could be used like batteries today for millions of different things. Here's a strange camel with 4 of these fasces on its back. And I think that this is what these columns that we see in these cathedrals, these structures are. They are actually a form of fascia, and they are a battery themselves. You look at them, see that they're very similar in their design. These are the Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian columns. Now, something else to note with these columns is that specifically the Ionic and Doric, these are also musical modes. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian are modes in musical theory. So I think that these represent the grand staff. These columns are 3-dimensionalized versions of the grand staff, and different denotations of placements along these would tell the person looking at it what tones were used in the construction of this pillar. And this battery is actually generating a frequency, which is represented by this ornamentation at the top that looks kind of like a stylized bass clef. And then the ornamentation becomes more and more ornate based on what is going on. So this is more than just a pillar. It's more than just a battery or a structure. It's the actual depiction of a frequency. It is what it is. It's literally the sound and the image in stone, in one. And it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It changes the way you look at all of these. These are electrical symbols running along these. These are also musical symbols. That's why the cathedrals are electrical music buildings. They're made to play the organ and different instruments, singing inside of it to tune the human body. It's literally a microcosm of the macrocosm. So our domed earth is a cathedral. It is a large place for tuning and creating electrical sound frequencies within. And these are the small versions of that large version recreated. So those would be fasces. These are different forms of fasces in China, part of these temples. This would be a small version. This is like an ankh. All of them bound together. Just like our batteries, there'll be large and small versions of them depending on what's going on. Here's one. Here's a giant installing one of these ornate columns, of these batteries with the electricity coming out of the top here. Is the comparison of a electrical line with a couple of these temples from around the world. They look very similar because they are the same. And they're confused with religious symbols, just like the end of Planet of the Apes, where they're in a church worshiping a nuclear bomb. People go and pray to the cross, which is the three-headed fascia, 1, 2, 3 on a pole, and these different deities on the inside are representations of electricity, positive, negative, and neutral, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. There's symbolized understanding of electricity in the world. Here are these enormous guys walking around with their fasces, taking them somewhere. They were obviously important back then. And this is a large one. This is a building form. The Togrul Tower, 20 meters, erected in 1063. Water-resistant mortar. This is a battery. Here's another fascie battery. So all of these poles here are small versions of fasces, which make up the larger one, which goes down into the earth. Probably goes into the water table, just like a battery, goes down into an electrolyte. Here's the fascia with the axe head and the sword. Trinity. Here's the laurels of Daphne again. Sun energy. Here's a temple looking very much like a battery, replicating energy through these stone. They would be storing energy inside of those batteries. Here are giants and regular-sized people holding up their smaller fasces up to the sun and charging them to store later. Their hats as well are working as the same form of battery fascia. Some of these are absolutely beautiful. Look at the stylization of these. And just like some of these fascias and columns might represent single frequencies, these could represent entire symphonies within symphonies, which is why they become so ornate. They are literally the sounds of the planets playing together in unison. You got two of these fasces, and above, up on the top, two more smaller versions replicated in different forms. And the bigger you'd make it, the more energy you could store inside of them. This is a cupola in India. The dome top, pulling energy down. It's probably charging from the atmosphere, pulling it down into the battery shape, which is formed in a way to store it and then transfer it through the rest of the entire building. Look at this one. Look at that. Unbelievable. It looks like a device. This looks like a battery that is storing a massive amount of energy in a single location. And sticking off the edge are these things that would look like those axe heads on the fasces. Bundles of these fasces all coming together, creating a single symbol to store these energies, different kinds of energies, different battery shapes. Look at the size of this one. In New Delhi, India, the Qutb Minar. Look at these bricks. These bricks are all storing energy in them. They're little batteries, and they're creating bigger and bigger ones. And then you live inside of the actual battery. And it would look like this. This is a battery, not a brick. These are batteries wired in series and wired in parallel. They look a lot like a brick, don't they? Look exactly like a brick. This is another battery stacked up. So you have this wrapped fascia style inside of a container and shield, aluminum plate, dielectric, positive and negative charge. And then there's these 2 points that come down into it so that they can be directed on the exterior. This is a Dickens water battery. It's a copper foil that goes about 10 turns around a piece of foam, a rod with a pipe clamp, and a metal conduit. Assembled battery comes out here, creates positive and negative, being exactly like all these other fascias and Tesla coils that you see. The Tesla coil, the fascia, all wrapped around here, bundled up, comes to the top. Same with the Baghdad batteries. These are all just forms of batteries that were known as fascias. Electrolyte in the center, pole coming out, positive and negative. Another Baghdad battery. Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla's enormous battery system. The Tesla oscillation and the Ankh as well. So when you see those guys carrying around those Ankhs, they're displaying their knowledge of batteries and how the universe works, because we're living inside of a battery. Another how a battery works. Anode, cathode. You have your zinc and silver, saltpaper, connecting wire, and electron flow. A voltaic pile. The Baghdad battery. Ground wires, stopper, iron rod, copper cylinder, a clay case on the outside, asphalt, sea salt. Now imagine this Baghdad battery the size of a building. Make it enormous. Now take 50 of them and put them in a circle and build walls around them, and you have a cathedral. Now start playing music in there based off of the frequency of the batteries, and you're charging the batteries while the batteries are charging you. How a battery works. Dry cell battery released electricity through a chemical reaction that takes place between the zinc alloy outer can, the anode. This is a small fascia. Rechargeable batteries. Your phone is working as a fascia. Everything in our world is working this way because this is the way the world we're within works. Here's a penny battery. Penny, wet paper foil, penny, wet paper foil, all the way down. Wire coming through the center. Carries the positive and negative out. And all of these could just be confused with religious symbols. There's the cross inside of the wheel, moving around. You could all go crazy like Planet of the Apes and make this a religious symbol, or you can look at it for what it is and capitalize on the fact that this is a device. Guy's holding a fascia and something else in his other hands, probably another device of it. Lion-headed god holding a key and a fascia. Here's somebody is an Egyptian depiction of them putting it in their mouth. Fascias coming out of the ground, going in their mouth. So these would also be staffs, scepters, crowns placed on the heads of these gods. In all of these reliefs. Here is one coming out of the center of the world, Mount Meru, rising out of the center of the world, and the sun atop of it with the moon and the stars, zodiac all moving around it. So the Mount Meru is a fascia with the electrolyte ocean washing around it in positive, negative, sun and moon, as depicted here. The central mountain with the dome, wings over it, sun and the moon, the tent of the heavens, the firmament with the oceans below and above. And they're holding a fascia in their right hand right here, pinning a serpent to the earth. And the serpent represents electrical energy. Here's another one depicting us as fascias. A person with two arms holding pillars out of the side. We have our negative and positive legs touch the earth. Fasces over the arm, the ankhs of life. The chains on the genie's arms that set them free. Here is a sword or a fasci symbol, a crozier with the two snakes representing the energy rising up to the cross here, which is another fascia symbol. These scepters are all depictions of these fascias, which they probably conducted energy, which is where you get the magical wand, being able to cast spells, sun energy on top of their head with the eclipse symbol right there. Here you go. They're holding this ankh. Here you go. Positive and negative. The cross going into the fork, going into the ground. Coming up, they're holding the ankh, fasci symbol. 1, 2, 3, 4, going up right there. This person was holding this. They're grounding themselves and charging their bodies as they live their lives, walking around, fully conducting electricity. This person eating the electricity, going into their face right here. And then blooming out of their head is a human body with the sun as a head on top of them. And then a harp coming out of the sides. This is a sound device. It's an electrical sound device. And this person over here with the black sun on their head doing the same. Positive, negative, and the ankh right there. It's almost embarrassing how obvious they left all the details for us. All the secrets of the old world are in the art they left us because they were genius. All of these crowns that the royals wear are pieces of the fascias. All of their outfits, stuff that they wore, were pieces of the fascia. So they were building their bodies out to be entire pieces of these fasces. And like we were talking about the Doric, Phrygian, Ionian columns, this is the Phrygian cap. So this represents a mode in music. Phrygian cap. So did this represent some kind of electrical device hat? It makes you wonder. And then here we go. Here's the Phrygian cap on top of a fascia. So Phrygian column. The connection here is the column, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian columns, Phrygian hat, fasci columns. Columns running down the side here. It's obvious. And these hats probably had more than just symbolic meaning. They didn't do just one thing in the past. The reason it was symbolic is because it was literal. It was a physical device. A symbol is something physical. An axe represents chopping things in half and setting something free, because that's what an axe does. You don't just make an axe up out of the clear blue sky. So these symbols actually mean something, and they also are devices. This looks like an actual port to install a fascia in. Like you would attach it to this. Hey guys, attach your fascias here to recharge them. Now these entire buildings are battery fascias as well. This is the depiction of it being broken down, just like the outer casing of a battery goes down. And here is the cross that saves the world, that the Son, Christ energy, is crucified on. Crucified means multiplied. So the Sun energy is crucified, multiplied right here for all of humanity. The light of the world. More of these columns, peaks of these cathedrals. And here's the Norse depiction of the world. An enormous fascia. All the way up, all the way down, the energy coming out of the side here, arcing up. The tree of life is a fascia. And this is one of the most interesting one, is these lighthouses are fascias. Go down into the ocean right there. They have Fresnel lenses on the inside, mercury. Look at these bells on the side. These are frequency devices. They're incredible. They're always painted in like red and white or black to denote their electrical capability. And a lot of these are landlocked lighthouses that are not by bodies of water, not by oceans. And here you go, the Tower of Babel, or the Lighthouse of Alexandria, whatever you want to call it. This was a fascia, an enormous fascia. Look at that. Pharos, a stunning fascia. And the light came out of the top. And this was probably like a fuse in an electrical system that connected a grid of different houses. Look at this. This is a melted building, fascia, standing in the ocean. The ocean wasn't here when they built this, which means there's more melted ocean down at the bedrock of or more melted building down at the bedrock of that ocean. Coming all the way up, that would have been a fuse in a part of that entire building that would connect the rest of it, just like this one out here in the middle of nowhere, because this is all that's left after everything was blasted off. And they take these lighthouses, strip them down, so all they do is sit out there and flick a light. You can go for a little tour in it. But what did they tell you? All the lighthouse owners went mad from the mercury and living out there by themselves. Look at this unusual lighthouse. It's very interesting. It looks like they built an entire building and then put a lighthouse device on the top as if it was some kind of a frequency device and not an actual tool for saving ships from crashing into the ocean. Look at this, Barcelona's natural wonder. This is an electrical device. Tons of battery fascias that are harvesting atmospheric star energy based on their ley lines locations on the Earth, reaching down into the water table below the Earth, turning it into a sound device, resonant machine for creating electricity and healing, literally feeding the people off of pranic energy in the village. So you typically see a fascia on money. It's seen as, it's on the back of the dime. People see it as a symbol for fascism. Bundle of wooden rods included an axe, 2 axes with its blade emerging. Fasces is an Italian symbol that its origin in the Etruscan civilization. Etymology of fasces: bundle of twigs bound up, bundle of rods containing an axe with the blade projecting. Plural of fasces, a bundle of wood. Carried before a lictor, a superior Roman magistrate, as a symbol of power over life and limb. It's also connected with the word faggot, a bundle of twigs bound up, a bundle of sticks. So it's also seen as something that is catches fire, sends out fire. Now, something we can see this in our world today is a railgun. A railgun is a linear motor device typically designed as a weapon that uses electromagnetic force to launch high-velocity projectiles. Projectile normally does not contain explosives, instead relying on the projectile's high kinetic energy to inflict damage. So look at these. These are fasces that we use today. Got your positive and negative. Projectile force traveling in between those 2 magnetic poles. This is a railgun. Go look up a video of a railgun firing, and then go look at these depictions of fasces throughout history. They show fire blasting out of the end of them, and they're showing the incredible energy. Look at this, the fascia. This is the pillar with energy traveling through the center, blasting out. This is how the railgun works. But that's all I have for you today.